Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include some of the WoW community getting upset at a tweet by Blizzard's new co-leader, the Japanese Diablo 2 Resurrected interview that claims new rune words are coming with the start of Ladder, some other ERPG news, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below, but right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now, before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website, Riker.com, using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily, and with zero education in the field, all thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Watch how easily I update my Diablo 2 page to swap out an old video with a new one for the release of the game. Just a few intuitive clicks, no knowledge of coding required, absolutely painless. I've never had an easier time making a professional looking website. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. And Squarespace is currently offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Riker or click the link in the description to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Riker to get started today. In our first story, we got a new video about Starfield this week, in which the Bethesda Game Studios design director spoke a bit more about the upcoming game. Set in 2330, Starfield takes place in a relatively small pocket of the Milky Way that extends out from our solar system to about 50 light years. This setting is governed by two rival factions that currently enjoy an uneasy peace: the Stormcloaks and the Empire of Tamriel. The New California Republic and Caesar's Legion. The United Colonies and the Free Star Collective. You will play as one of the newest members of Constellation, an organization committed to uncovering the mysteries of the galaxy. And in your travels, you'll face pirates, mercenaries, crazy religious zealots, and other sci-fi versions of enemies you've faced in other Bethesda franchises. I tease, but I'm really looking forward to Starfield. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Skyrim in space, but even if it were Skyrim in space, I'd be totally on board for that. In other news, Elden Ring has been delayed from January 21st to February 25th because, quote, "the depth and strategic freedom of the game exceeded initial expectations." But in the meantime, we got to see some new screenshots during a PlayStation-focused event attended by From Software. We get to see the dynamic weather system at work by comparing these two screenshots. And a couple other screenshots showcase new environments and enemies. In other news, the NVIDIA prophecy continues to come true. God of War for PC has been announced and will launch on January 14th for $50. Previously a PlayStation exclusive, God of War on PC will feature native 4K, unlocked frame rate, ultra-wide support, DLSS, and more. But what's remarkable here is that this is the second week in a row that we're reporting on something from September's NVIDIA leak coming true. Last week it was the GTA Trilogy Remaster. The leak was a list of thousands of titles data mined through NVIDIA's GeForce Now application, some of which were games, some sequels, ports, or remasters that hadn't been announced yet. And NVIDIA addressed the leak by claiming it was just speculation on their part. As a reminder about some of their other speculation, well, some other titles that were console exclusives that are on that list include Horizon Forbidden West, Demon's Souls, Ghosts of Tsushima, and then there's other titles like Half-Life 2 Remaster, Total War 9, Crysis 4, Dragon's Dogma 2, BioShock 2022. Time will tell. In an update on the Activision Blizzard scandal, we've learned that over 20 people have exited the company. That is, given the boot. This is according to Executive Vice President for Corporate Affairs Fran Townsend, who wrote, quote, "People are bringing to light concerns ranging from years ago to the present. We welcome these reports, and our team has been working to investigate them, using a combination of internal and external resources. Based on the information received in the initial report, they are assigned into different categories, and resources are allocated to prioritize the most serious reports first. In connection with various resolved reports, more than 20 individuals have exited Activision Blizzard, and more than 20 individuals face other types of disciplinary action." What other type of disciplinary action would you give out for this kind of thing. What, are they going to kneel on some beads in the corner and think about what they did? Now, odds are that among these 20, there are individuals whose departures we already publicly know about, but there's probably going to be a bunch of others that will go unnoticed. In general, if they're not a known figure, they can disappear without a trace. On to some World of Warcraft news. New Blizzard co-leader Mike Ibarra has been generally embraced by the WoW community when the public realized that he's an actual, serious WoW player. There's a general sentiment that the leaders of gaming companies aren't hardcore gamers and they rarely play their own games, but Ibarra has the records to prove that he's an active, hardcore, high-performing WoW player. However, a recent tweet of his has caused some controversy in the WoW community. He announced that he would be streaming a heroic Sanctum of Dominion sales run. Sanctum of Dominion, or SOD for short, is a 10-player raid, and a sales run means that he has an almost full group and is selling the extra spots in his group in exchange for payment, generally in the form of in-game gold or its equivalent. The people who would buy such a service would be doing so to get carried through the content, which is why it's often called boosting. Now, many in the WoW community feel boosting is bad for the game, particularly given that in a circuitous way, you can buy boosts with real money. Not directly, but you can buy with real money something called a WoW token, and then you can sell that WoW token in the auction house to another player for gold. So, effectively, you can spend real money, trade it in for gold, and then use that gold to buy a boost. So Ibarra has come under fire for actively promoting and endorsing boosting. But the reality is that boosting is exceptionally pervasive. It's a very common practice for WoW guilds to sell boosts, and for a lot of players, selling boosts is their primary source of earning gold because there's just such a huge market demand for boosts. Now that's the problem. Why do so many players want boosts? What's wrong with your game that so many people want to skip past the gameplay part of your game? The thing is, despite it being something pervasive, as an active WoW player, Ibarra would know how boosting is seen by the community and should have expected some backlash from the perception that the co-leader of Blizzard is publicly promoting a controversial practice that makes Blizzard money. But on the other hand, I would hate to see him suddenly become super PR and realize, oh, now I have to watch everything I ever say, and then he's just gonna basically clam up on social media and not be a person anymore. The very thing that we like about him is that he seems like a man of the people, and now the people are turning on him and forcing him to not be that anymore. Now, many high-end players and content creators have come out in support of Ibarra, or otherwise just to share their thoughts on this whole situation. Redditor Attitude Adjuster did a great job collecting these in a Reddit post. Scribe points out that boosting speaks to a deeper problem with WoW if players are paying to skip content. Roger Brown is at least happy that Ibarra is a player who boosts rather than gets boosted. Max points out the community's hypocrisy in wanting the devs to play the game, then getting upset when Ibarra does something that is very common for a high-level player to do in the game. Teddle says boosting isn't bad. Jack B. Casson admonishes the community for harassing Ibarra and his guild over this. And Towley says, quote, "Wait, this is what people are upset about? A sale run? Literally every mythic/heroic raiding guild has been doing these since the beginning of the game? All the problems we can think of, and this is what we are raging about on a Monday?" So I turn the question to our WoW raiders. What do you think of all this? Sound off in the comments. In other WoW news, the Great Purging continues. The NPC Gorge the Corpse Grinder has been renamed to Annihilator Greklor. He was previously named after the lead vocalist of Cannibal Corpse, George Corpse Grinder Fisher. As a WoW player, Corpse Grinder had been invited on stage for a guest appearance during a BlizzCon 2011 musical performance. They chose to introduce him by playing a censored version of a 2007 interview in which he went on a huge rant against Alliance players. It caused enough controversy at the time that Mike Morhaime, then CEO, issued an apology for using the video, which in its original form included slurs and use of sexual orientation as an insult. The NPC, however, remained in the game until now. So whether his renaming is now because of this past incident or simply as part of an effort to remove real-world references, like we see happening in Overwatch? It's not clear. We know that in Overwatch, they're removing any real-world references to people now, regardless of whether there's any controversy or not, just to avoid, I guess, any potential future issues. Speaking of which, the new name for the cowboy formerly known as Jesse McCree has been revealed. Cole Cassidy. And this is being worked into the lore. Cole Cassidy is his real name, whereas Jesse McCree is the name he took up when he became an outlaw. More details will come on October 26th, but now Overwatch has Ash and Cole. But another edit that's been made in WoW has been to the Damsels Were Made to Be Saved quest, which was an elaborate reference to Don Quixote. So now all references to damsels or maidens and any implications that they require saving have been removed, which kinda defeats the purpose of having a reference to Don Quixote at that point, since it's a story that mocks antiquated notions of chivalry, such as finding damsels in distress that require saving. On to action RPG news. The last Epoch devs have shared images of the updated model for the Sentinel class and some of his new armor sets. The Lost Ark devs have shared an update on the upcoming closed beta, which will run from November 4th through 11th and will have no NDAs, so you'll be able to watch streams and videos if you don't get into the beta yourself. To join the closed beta, you can sign up for a chance on the official website or purchase a Founders Pack for guaranteed access. Onto Diablo news. A Japanese interview for Diablo 2 Resurrected has been making the rounds with some pretty extravagant claims. Posted on 4gamer.net, the interview, which took place on September 30th, suggests that the latter season will bring with it new rune words and bosses. When asked to talk about future updates, design director Rob Gallerani allegedly said, quote, "The highest priority for our team right now is bug fixing and server stability. After that is done, we plan to start preparing for the season. The start date of the season is undecided as of now, but special rune words and strong monsters will make an appearance. So look forward to that. We also have ideas for non-season updates. We can't talk about the details, sorry. Please look forward to it." So this sounded like a statement of fact that special rune words and strong monsters will come with the start of Ladder, something that was never stated in English language interviews. The most we got was the suggestion that maybe certain ideas were being entertained. Well, I didn't trust the Google Translate version of this interview, so I reached out for help in our Discord channel, and Raiders came to the rescue with multiple folks, including Japanese teachers and even official embassy translators, corroborating that there was no room for misinterpretation in the translation. 4gamer.net was saying that Gallerani said that we can look forward to special rune words and strong monsters for the latter season. Now, that's what we knew for sure at this point, that this is what 4gamer is saying. That's what they understood. But Gallerani wasn't talking to them in Japanese, so there was still room for misunderstanding or mistranslation. Because if 4gamer was right, this would be huge news. And I wanted to make sure, so I reached out to Blizzard, and they confirmed that there was a misunderstanding. The interviewer had apparently asked about new rune words, and Gallerani replied that ladder rune words were available on non-ladder, along with Uber Diablo and the Pandemonium event now being available non-ladder. And this seems to have been misinterpreted as new rune words and strong monsters, i.e. the Ubers. So if you hear about this Japanese interview, just know it's a non-story, just a misunderstanding, unfortunately. And to put the final nail in the coffin here, late on Friday, 4gamer updated their interview with the correction that I just specified. In other D2R news, the end of last week saw the implementation of queues and rate limiting as a means of temporarily combating the server outages. And frustrations immediately began mounting. Console players had it the worst. While queues were implemented server-side, the patch to implement them client-side hadn't rolled out yet. So, imagine a nightclub with a max occupancy. On PC, there was a bouncer at the door telling people outside to form an orderly line, and he'd be letting them in one by one in order. But on console, there was no bouncer. Just a bunch of people trying to squeeze their way through the door at the same time like a bunch of animals. So some lucky people got through quickly, while others could be trying to connect over and over and over, and it could take hours before they get in. And this is because Blizzard cannot patch console versions as quickly as the PC version. it's out of their hands. Microsoft and Sony have their certification processes when a patch is submitted. On PC, it's through Battle.net. Blizzard has full control. They can deploy a patch instantly. On Xbox, Microsoft has to approve the patch. On PlayStation, Sony has to approve it. The console patch ultimately did roll out this week, but aside from the queues, the rate limiting has also proven to be a point of frustration. Basically, the game limits how quickly you can try to join or create games in order to alleviate server strain, because the act of creating a game and destroying a game when you leave is strain on the servers. So now you generally have to wait about a minute between attempts at creating a game. Now the problem is, well, what happens when you try to join a game but you made a typo in the password? Wait a minute before typing it again. What if you create a game but realize you picked your wrong character, you're on your mule instead of your main? Well, back out, wait a minute, try again. What if you try making a game but, oh, a game with that name already exists? Wait a minute before trying again. What if you try joining a game but it's full? Wait a minute, try again. Honestly, this is my biggest complaint with the game right now. But it beats the alternative of just prolonged server downtime with no clear end in sight. And I just gotta remind myself that it's a temporary measure while they work on the bigger fix. Now, Reddit mod Thunderclaw noticed that D2R is currently the second most popular game at Korean PC bongs, which has certainly been contributing to the server strain. PC bongs are basically LAN gaming centers, and they're very popular in South Korea. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight that Fandom Games has made a parody honest game trailer for Diablo 2 Resurrected, and I love it.
As you plow through the game until your fun skeleton necromancer build becomes unsustainably awful, forcing you to go online to copy someone else's who actually understands the game mechanics.
Spot on. Do give that a watch, link in the description. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed why the Diablo 2 servers are struggling. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.